I've been saying this since day one. I'm not going to be shy about saying it tonight. Bud Crawford does not include a body attack in his arsenal. He might go to the body here and there when he is trying to finish a fighter off, but I think that he is going to need that in his arsenal for the duration of this fight because he has to figure out a way to be able to slow Spence down. We know that Spence changed his levels right after the middle of the fight. He changed his levels, and then he just start turning up on you the same way, kind of like Tank Davis does. And so
Yep.
what Bud is going to have to do is figure out ways that he's got to slow Errol Spence down. And one of those ways is not going to be him fighting the way he fought Sean Porter, nor is it going to be the way that he fought David Evanesian. I know Rachel said she'd have to go back and watch that fight with David Evanesian and Crawford, but I've watched that fight several times, and Bud Crawford took a lot of leather from the right overhand right to be exact, several times in that fight with David Evanesian. He also took an overhand right against Mean Green Machine. Hope I'm saying his name right. Mean Bean Machine. And guess what happened? He got knocked down in that fight. And Greg, you said it the best. They didn't call it a knock. The referee did not score it a knockdown or officially call it a knockdown. But Bud Crawford got knocked down in that fight by the same punch. I looked at how Sean Porter, according to my scorecards, and I'm not sure if the unofficial scorecards or the official scorecards had it, but I actually had Sean Porter winning that fight, slightly winning at the time that Bud Crawford knocked him down. Sean Porter did a lot of good foot placement, and Rachel knows this. I look at fighters' feet throughout the entire duration of the fight. And I saw how I had to wait to Rachel for that one because she does the same thing. But I saw how Sean Porter did a good job setting up his punches to advance and get on the inside, and he was successful. And Crawford was holding a lot, to my liking. To my liking, he was holding Porter a little bit too much, not enough to, I wouldn't say excessive enough to get any points taken away, but to my liking, where he could have, kept Porter off him with the jab. So his last two fights, basically what I'm saying is that I need to see more improvement for him to go in there and stop Errol Spence Jr. Because the last two fights that I saw, last three fights actually, including Kell Brook that I saw with Bud, he was taking too many unnecessary punches. And so he definitely going to have to work on his defense. Instead of him taking 2 steps back, a lot of times as fighters, when we're in the mix, we take 2 steps back, and usually in boxing, that second step back is the placement you'll have, but you'll get punched in the face having that taking that second step back instead of taking 1 step back and pivoting to turn your opponent. And I don't see him doing it a lot. To me personally, I think Errol Spence is going to win this fight. I'm not going to say he's just going to dominate him for 12 rounds because to me that's unrealistic in there with somebody who is as talented and experienced as Bud. But my number one factor is opposition, the level of opposition. We all know this to be true, Greg. I appreciate your honesty for saying you don't know when Black and Bruce asks you who has Crawford fought, to give you that confidence that, hey, he's going to go in there and dominate him because he has the experience out of 39 professional fights, and there is nobody. And it's no disrespect to Crawford. It's more of a credit to Brad Goodman, the matchmaker over there at Top Rank, and so is it a credit to Bob Arum. They did a wonderful job. We call it patent a record in the business. Early on in Crawford's career, got him to multiple championship fights, but the level of competition never increased. And that is why I believe that this is going to be the first time Crawford is going to be exposed to somebody on his level or even on a greater level. And so we got to see how he's going to respond to that. And so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I already told y'all before, I'm still going to stand on my word. I'm not going to fully believe that this fight's going to happen until both of these men step off of the scale on July 28th, Friday night.